All right, welcome back to the #1 podcast in the world. Here, here with a very special guest. We'd love to welcome to the show the Dean of Students, Ron Watson.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being here. We're super excited about this. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this. Let's go ahead for our rapid fire round. What's the most underrated major at Beloit College?
Probably part.
What is part?
That's the performing arts.
Oh,
right?
performing
Gotcha.
arts.
Yeah.
Wait, I heard about like the play that they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
What like one of the teachers like died, and he was
years ago. Sure.
That's a true story, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's based on a true story.
Okay.
But, yeah, in terms of majors, though, I mean, I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of what performance can teach you.
Okay.
In terms of almost any other major that you do or any other sort of thing you do in life. As an academic, of course, I've been to many academic presentations where it is very clear that people did not get the memo on how to do performance or public speaking.
Interesting. Yeah. So
sure.
I'm actually like, I mean, I don't really fit like the kind of like stereotype almost to do a performing arts. Next semester, I'm doing an acting class.
Good. You absolutely should.
And I'm super excited about it.
There are many times in this life and in your career where you will need to act.
Yeah.
I mean, quite truly, you need to put on a persona, and you'll need to, sort of be dedicated to that to get through something. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's a truly important and underrated skill.
So, yeah, my parents have been telling me for years they wanted me to do an improv class.
Yeah.
Because, like, we do this podcast. But I'm a business major, baseball player. I don't really fit that.
See, so that's exactly where I disagree, right?
Okay.
I mean, if you're in business, so much of success in business has to do with being able to interact with people in a particular kind of way. And there are some folks you're going to interact with where you're like, man, that person's a sleazeball. Right? And especially if you're representing your company or you're representing, some other interest, you can't always betray that, right? While you're when you're having those conversations. That's where being able to take a deep breath and say, okay, so my name is Jordan B. Jordan, and I'm this and this is what I'm doing, right? So I think it's actually, and including in like healthcare, right?
Okay.
I mean, oftentimes people in healthcare, they have to interact with a variety of different people.
Yeah. And
you have to be able to recognize, okay, what's the situation I'm in? Okay, what aspect of my persona do I need to be able to portray at this point?
Right.
These are important skills that no one ever thinks about until they're in the moment.
I love that because, now that we're into podcasting, I mean, me and Brody are really into comedy.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And Brody tells me, like, you'd be a great comic. And I'm like, slowly but surely, that's kind of become, like, my new dream job. Right? I kind of want to, I really, second semester, in my, last year of undergrad will be the first time I'm doing, like, an acting comedy class.
Uh-huh.
But I still think I'm just looking forward to it.
Give it a go. I mean, my oldest stepson, someone I would never in a million years have imagined would do stand-up comedy. And he just started doing it. It turns out it was something that was in his head and in his heart, and he started doing it, and he does it regularly now.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Is public speaking technically a performing art?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think to a certain extent. I know, for example, that one of our professors who is in PAART, that they regularly offer a course in public speaking, and I think it's really, really important.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
For the next question, what's one thing students complain about that secretly makes sense?
Oh man, that is a really, really hard question, actually. Because I hear students complain about a lot of things, right? They complain about food, where I'm just like, man, if you all had gone to college when I went to college, you would not be complaining about food. I think that I hear students complain about like transportation and getting places. And I think that's legitimate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is a smaller city, and while it has a lot to offer, I think it is difficult to get around in this area. If you don't have a car.
Yeah.
And if you have a car, it's fine. But, not everyone does. Or not everyone can bum rides off of folks, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a legitimate concern, a legitimate question, right?
I would say so.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite Beloit sports team to watch?
Oh, man, you're going to get me in trouble here. I mean, so, here's the thing, right? Like, I enjoy watching all of our teams because there's really nothing like going out and seeing students who are in your class also out there on the court, like this whole different side of it, right? And but I've been really enamored lately, of course, by our hockey team, right? Men's and women's hockey. And part of that is just because I never really was exposed to it, like basketball, baseball, football, soccer. I've watched all of those growing up and participated in them, but hockey is something that's kind of beyond me, right? Prior to our team being here, I'd only seen one live hockey game, and that was the Nagano Olympics back in '98. I got to watch Italy versus Kazakhstan, I think, right? And so that was the first and only until recently live hockey game I'd seen. But it is really something else to see your students out there, who you just don't see in that way, right? Who are in class, maybe just kind of hanging out or just watching, answering questions, and then you see them out on the ice, skating backwards, knocking people over, being knocked over.
Yeah,
like, oh my
crazy.
God, right? Like I didn't know she could do that. I'm kind of scared now. So anyway, that's been really impressive to see. But I enjoy watching all of our sports, but that's been the one that's sticking out to me right now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the same for me too. Like I'd never been to a hockey game until the inaugural game here, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had.
Yeah, it's really compelling, right?
Yeah.
It goes by so fast. Right? So. Yeah, and the athleticism is there with all of our sports, right? But that one is, again, because it's newer to me, it's kind of like surprising.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's the best Beloit tradition?
The best Beloit tradition, man. I was thinking about this the other day. I think one of the best ones is people are gonna get mad at me. Is bell runs.
I was going to say that.
I think it's so fun, right? It's one of those things. Like most college, well, I'm not saying most college students, but like many college students, I too had a bell run type thing when I was an undergrad, and I just think that's great. But I think another tradition here that I really like is our what do you call it? Like when the semester begins, our I'm trying to think of what do you call it, man? Like information sessions, right? The information sessions that we do, because they are much more intimate. So I initially went to a really large school, right? Yeah. And it's so much more intimate when you have a smaller campus where you can walk into a single place and have all of the people who want to talk to you, right there, which I think is really cool. In the past, we had a different tradition that I really loved. Which was before classes would begin, there was like a drop ad day, and we would all get together, right? Like the whole campus would go to it, right? And you'd actually take physical cards around and get signed into classes in this whole area with all the professors and staff and all of that. And that was super interesting. It felt like a real, to me, like again, remember I'm a lot older, right? So it felt like a college. This is a thing that you're doing at college. And if possible, I'd love to see that come back again. Although I know it's a logistical nightmare. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Lying. That's an easy one. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I strive never to do it, and I also, I don't like when people do it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where, if you tell a lie about a big thing, it's like, well, man, when another big thing happens, I can't really trust you. And if you lie about little things, you can't trust that person on anything, right? It's like, just tell me the truth. The truth is our friend all the time, right? And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it sucks to hear a thing, but, it's better than lying, because lying then means I really don't know what's true, and that's a problem for me.
One thing we're big on, especially like having this podcast and just things we've realized, is that trust is the most important factor.
That is
it's like people say, what's the most important factor in business and leadership? It's trust. Like as soon as trust is broken, like it can never be repaired. It really can't. Like, let's say me and Brody are working on production or editing or an episode or having a guest, and I say, hey, we're having this guest, but I was lying about it. Well, then he's never going to trust me again that I'm going to like, we try to do all the things that we say we're going to do.
That's right.
That's the biggest thing in my life right now is if I say, hey, I'm gonna go to this place or I'm gonna do it. You have to do it, and that's how you build confidence in yourself.
That's right. I mean, I completely agree, Jordan. I mean, so when I went to college back in the late '80s, early '90s, one of the things that a lot of us used to say, and it was in a lot of the hip hop and rap music at the time, is "word is bond," right? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that I think is true, right? Your word should be your bond. And it's one thing to make a mistake about something, right? Like, oh man, I thought Joe was coming to the podcast, but he didn't come, right? Or I got the dates wrong. It's another thing to lie about it, right? Because again, your word is your bond, and you know, to me, in this world, there aren't a whole lot of things that are truly ours to have, and your word and your commitment to it is one of them.
So you're super into like music and all that stuff, right?
I wouldn't say super. I mean, I think I was a lot more, but I've been in a lot of bands over my life.
Yeah, we were gonna get into that. Yeah, you're in a band. What's some of like your favorite music?
I always laugh about this because my wife hates my taste in music. But yeah, my favorite band is Indigo Girls.
Okay.
It has been for at this point for decades, right? The first time I heard them back in, gosh, it probably was like in the 90s, early 90s. I just couldn't believe it. It's just their harmonies, the lyrics, and their performance and their voices themselves, right? I sing, so I really am into people who are great singers.
Yeah.
And they just capture my mind and never let go. So yeah, but it stretches across everything you might imagine. Lots of hip hop, because I had the great fortune of living through what I now consider to be the golden age of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
The 80s and 90s. But lots of hip hop, lots of rock. I'm like a huge rock fan, right? Lots of classic rock, but of course 90s rock, you know, those kinds of things. I now like jazz more, but especially Ellington, right? Because my kids and stepkids were involved in the program that we have here at Beloit Memorial, which is a phenomenal jazz program. I don't know if you guys know that or not.
No.
It's an extraordinary program, and yeah, their involvement got me into listening to like Duke Ellington, like sort of revisiting that, which, you know, that music is phenomenal. But yeah, I kind of like everything. I like some country, some country. Again, I'm from a rural place, right?
Yeah.
And so I always would listen. We would be listening to, you know, the Oak Ridge Boys, or Alabama, and those kinds of bands when I was growing up.
So my dad's in a band too.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, so I've kind of grown up listening to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
I have a big appreciation for music.
Right on.
Like, I'm not necessarily like a guy who that might come off as, but like I listen to all songs. Like, I'm so into like the beat, like listening to the background, hearing the piano.
Yeah.
Or like some, you know, I'm really into that.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff I listen to is a little bit newer. I'm really into Lorde. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Oh, of course I've heard of Lorde.
I love Lorde.
I didn't. So what's funny, Lorde had a couple of, you know, really big songs a number of years ago, and I haven't really listened to Lorde's music since.
Yeah. I'll give you some recommendations. Me and Brody, we really like Sober.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Right on. Yeah, pass it on, please.
Man, oh my gosh, we could talk about music for days. Yeah.
We just like to feel the lyrics.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So that's me with Indigo Girls, right? Like it resonated. What they had to say and how they said it resonated with me, right? And you know, it's them and Prince, right? Those two are my sort of musical, you know, sort of guideposts. Right?
Yeah. So I'm from Kansas City, and like jazz and the blues, like that's really a really big thing there in a lot of those neighborhoods.
Yeah, sure.
I grew up like when I was in high school playing baseball. There was this place called the Urban Youth Academy. It's on 18th and Vine, and it's a very big like musical district. Kind of like I really appreciated that culture because growing up, I live in the suburbs, and I would go, you know, to the urban part of the city to go play baseball.
Yeah.
And go do like the development stuff that I would be doing, and just very different, very culturally different, and I kind of just always had an appreciation for getting to know how other people grew up.
Yeah, and you landed here. No surprise, right?
No surprise
I mean,
there.
Exactly it, right?
And here I'm doing this thing and just trying to like get to know all sorts of people, and it's really interesting, like doing all that. Anyways, let's keep moving along.
Did you play any instruments?
Not well. I had the good fortune of someone giving me an electroacoustic guitar years ago, and I even took lessons at one point and worked on it, and it never came naturally to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not easy to learn.
No, mostly what I do is sing.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All right, let's just skip ahead. What's one unpopular opinion about college life that you're willing to defend?
Oh man, I mean, there have been any number over the years, but I would say the one that I'm kind of in the midst of, in the throes of today is, there's a lot of folks say that colleges today don't do a good job of preparing students to really confront like difficult subjects and difficult topics. And I have to say, I think that there's probably some truth to that. And I don't think it's really just on colleges. I think the reality is that our society has changed in fundamental ways. I had this one alum who I would speak to, and they would say things like, "Man, why don't students just get together and talk it out with difficult stuff?"
Not that
and I'm
easy.
like, "Oh man, well, because that person graduated the same time I did, and there was no internet."
Yeah.
There was no social media. So, I mean, really, the only way to talk to someone was to talk to them, right?
Yeah.
Like face to face, breathe the same air, Man, I don't agree with that, but, I'm going to get some fries. Well, get me some too, right?
Yeah.
And you can do that sort of thing. But those people who know me know that I'm on a one-man crusade to force us all to really reevaluate the role of social media in our lives. It is more, and the data back me on this, right? It is more of a poison than it is anything else. And I think that has helped to create an atmosphere that, and the continued backpedaling in our society for years now when it comes to advancing people's rights and those sorts of things. I think that those taken together with social media and the sort of extremism that it calls us to, I think it's just created a difficult situation for any college, right? So it's not just Beloit, right? I hope everyone understands that. This is something that every college is struggling with, right?
Yeah.
Because it's fraught. It's super fraught now to say, you should talk to this and let's talk it out. It's like, no. I'd rather go online and be like, these people suck.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think, so I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, but this quote from there, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, that's right. And Mark Zuckerberg clearly never watched Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just him, but lots of folks clearly never did.
If you're going to do anything that brings together a big group of people and gives you a lot of power, you have no idea how much responsibility it gives you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Like, and I think about this all the time in baseball of, you work so hard to get on the field and earn that starting spot, and you're out there, and think about how much responsibility is on you. Yeah. And that's just in baseball. In life, these people who run corporations and big businesses.
Yeah.
Think about how many people are counting on them.
Yes.
And I think that goes unnoticed. And I sometimes I don't get, like, am I the only one who thinks about this stuff?
No, you're definitely not the only person out there who thinks about it. I think that many folks, though, and this is, again, one of what I would consider to be one of the real dark sides of the internet, is that the culture of anonymity breeds this sense of contempt, right, for other people and for other opinions and it in some ways hides you, or at least in your perception, is that it hides you from this added accountability and responsibility. And I just think that's part of the darkness of it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's true. I mean, if you've got a lot of followers, that's a lot of responsibility now. Yeah. And even if you don't have a lot, if you have certain people who really hinge on what you say because you're seen as a local expert, that's a huge amount of responsibility.
Yeah.
And, there's just, I think there are lots of people in this world who are rolling through it with no sense that they're accountable for that. And again, that's, in previous generations, that would not have been the case, right? I learned all of this stuff from Brody. Brody is the person who's been telling me all this. And then so when it comes down to it, someone's going to come to Brody and be like, yo, man, what the hell? Why are you telling people this? Right?
Yeah.
But now that's just so much more difficult to do.
One thing that I think about so much is just history repeating itself.
Yeah, it's scary.
because I see this all the time. So I guess I'll expose myself a little bit. I'm Jewish, and social media is killing me right now. I see all these things about Jewish people are this, Jewish people are that, and I'm like, I'm not anything.
Last time I checked,
I'm just like you. I'm one of you guys. Like, why are people attacking me just because of a religious affiliation that I was born into?
That's right.
And I have a lot of trouble with it because people are it's so accepted socially to be anti-Semitic and say what you're doing. The amount of times last year people like I didn't know would come up to me and say what you're doing is wrong. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
what did I do?
I go to class, I play baseball, I don't do anything else, and I don't think people like understand, people don't educate themselves. If you're going to talk about some of these things, especially in politics, you need to know what you're talking about. I think we see so many people want to be so involved, and I don't think enough people are educated on it.
Yeah, and part of that is just the sheer volume of information, both real and fake, that we're bombarded with, right?
Yeah.
And I do think this is going to be kind of weird to say, but I even think that some of that stuff, right? The coming up to you and saying what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
That it's coming from a place in the minds of some folks. It's coming from a place of I want to do good. I want to stand. And I want to let someone know, because otherwise I feel so helpless and hopeless, right? But therein lies the truth of what you said, right? But if you educate yourself around this and really understand, not everyone on my team is into this, and not everyone on your team is into that, right?
Yeah.
I often sort of talk about these things about organizations that we feel comfortable with, right? And some of the stuff that over time, as you talk about cycles, right, is that over time, almost any major organization, religious group that you can name has had moments and leaders who really had terrible things to say.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola today is not the Coca-Cola of 1933, right? Because they would not have wanted me drinking their product.
Yeah.
And now, of course, Coca-Cola today is creating scholarships for people like me.
Yeah.
Right? So, and there's just so much of that. And the more that we understand that things do change over time, and that individuals are often, and for the most part, as helpless and around these situations as any one of us, I think that can help us to cultivate the empathy we need. So instead of walking up to you and saying something like that, instead walk up and say, hey, I know that you're part of this group. Can you break this down for me?
Yeah.
But again, it's the extremism of the internet, right? I was literally telling my wife this the other day. We were having a conversation about it. And it's like, it's creating an environment where the incentive is to go to 100 all the time, right? Because that's where you get the dopamine rush, right? I went up to them and I said this thing. It's like, oh, whew, I feel really pumped. And that's just wrong. That's how you destroy a society. It's not how you build one.
Yeah.
Right? So,
what do you think of everyone having equal opportunity in this country? Do you think that's true?
Equal opportunity? No.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so either.
Well, I mean, the evidence is clear that is true, right? I think that there is a belief that people have equal opportunity, and that belief is often rooted in other beliefs that is not quite as savory, or that sometimes are truly based in ignorance, right? Depending on how people have lived their lives. I think it's very difficult to argue that someone who has grown up in a place that is very dangerous, especially when they and their families have no immediate ability to change that condition, right? To argue that person has the same opportunity to learn and to grow as someone who went to a place where they didn't have that, plus they had great schools.
Yeah.
Right. That's, again, it's a bit of a, I don't really know what to call it. I mean, I think it's a smokescreen to think that.
Okay.
I think what we can argue is that we should be striving to that, right? That's something toward which we should strive, is to have true equality of opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
But that requires, and I'll just say this since we're talking, right? That really is going to require people to examine all of the things that they have received by birth.
Yeah.
And by luck.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about things that no one ever talks about. Is so much of life is luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in a society like ours that has real issues that we have not really dealt with in centuries, that luck is front-loaded for some people in ways that it isn't for others.
Yeah. I give this comparison all the time. Like, if you're on a diet, but your house and your pantry is full of candy, you're going to eat the candy eventually.
Candy. That's the fact of the matter. That's right.
And like, the things that are around you is just what you become. And the candy is just a small example to things that are so much bigger.
Yeah.
Like, if we're hanging around guys that are bad people, not going to class, don't do their homework, like, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm not going to do my homework.
Yeah. You don't want to be the odd one out, right? When I was growing up, there was an expression, I mean, it's probably a little dated now, but they used to say, if you hang with 9 broke friends, you're bound to be the 10th one, right?
Yeah, no, and that's
how it goes, right? It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Right? That human beings are extraordinarily susceptible to social cues.
Mm-hmm.
I even do like an experiment in my classes where I walk out of the class and I come in with a smiling expression and see how people react, and then I walk out and I come back with a kind of scowl on my face and see how people react. And what I always tell them, I said, why are you changing your expression? You know that this is fake.
Yeah.
You know it's fake, and yet when I come back in with a scowl, students are like, they stop smiling.
Yeah.
And that's what I need people to understand, right? Is that's how susceptible so many of us are to social cues. So back to your equality of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
If you grow up in a place or you grow up in a community where you're dismissed or, you and your family and those like you are considered to be the reason for the problems and all of that, of course you're going to internalize all that. Mm-hmm. It's unreasonable to expect someone who's been raised in hell-like conditions to behave like an angel. That's unreasonable. Yeah. They might still, right, because of luck. But, it's not reasonable.
Well, what do you think separates the people who are in bad conditions and then they make it out?
I mean, I'm going to say it again. I think it's luck.
Yeah, okay.
Because, again, so we live in a probabilistic universe, right? There's always... There very, very seldom is there 100% of the time a thing is a thing, right? And in that case, for me, it's really luck. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you luck out in certain ways, right? Like you have a parent, even though you come from a broken home, the one parent you have is like an extraordinary parent for no good reason, right?
Yeah.
They just happen to be really good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are in a situation where you're going down the wrong pathway and someone, right, even maybe let's say the police officer who is about to arrest you is like, you know what? I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna become the mentor in your life.
Right.
I mean, that's luck. There's nothing you did to make that happen. And then for some people, it really is that they, from the moment that they were born with just a different viewpoint that allows them to navigate this particular society in a way that can sort of help them out.
Right.
But, I think the bigger question is, why should we continue to allow luck to be the determining factor in whether or not someone is able to make it out of those conditions? Yeah. Why don't we transform those conditions? Right?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
You lived in Japan, right?
I did for a long time, yeah.
Do you think it's kind of the same there as it is here based on what we've been talking about with luck and...
I mean, yes, but at a different level, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that luck plays a role in all human interactions, right? To a much greater extent than, and I said luck, but how can I say it? I mean things that are beyond your control, but that fall in your favor or fall against you.
Yeah.
Right? Because bad luck is a thing too.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, it's the nicest person in the world. Why does this keep happening to them?
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I think in Japan and in many other societies, wealthy societies outside the United States, what they've done is they front loaded the conditions for a more equal opportunity, equality of opportunity. And so luck plays less of a role in whether or not a person has basic needs met, whether or not a person is able to get a decent job, or whether or not they're able to, find a partner or a spouse or or to do certain things in their society, right, or do certain things in life. But I think it still plays a role, but it doesn't play a role in the basics, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's what I would argue.
Yeah, interesting. So, what were you doing in Japan? You were a second language teacher? Right?
Initially, yeah.
Okay.
Initially, I was. Yeah, I was on the JET program. So, big plug for the JET program. If you would like to see the world and you want to do something really cool and interesting, get on the JET program. You don't have to be a Japanese major or minor. In fact, there's a whole story about how that almost derailed me in my interview process.
Wow.
But we won't talk about it here. But yeah, it's JET program or similar programs in other countries exist. But it was a great opportunity for me to finally go to Japan and start to enjoy my life there. But then I also continued my study of Japanese language and became a writer and translator there.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I've been born into this, but I mean, I've been speaking French for a long time.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
Good for you.
So I started doing it. I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
I just I couldn't even tell you what happened. Like I went on a trip to Florida. There's a lot of Canadians, like French Canadians there.
Uh-huh.
I heard them speaking French, and I was like, I want to do this.
It's so funny. That's very similar to how I started. I started teaching myself Japanese.
Yeah,
and it was
yeah.
because of that. I was walking behind these young women. This is when I was at Florida State. On my last days there, thank goodness. But yeah, and walking behind these young women. And they were speaking a language. And again, remember, I'm from rural Virginia.
Yeah.
And now I know that they were speaking Korean.
Oh, wow.
But then I just assumed they were speaking Japanese because the only thing I really knew about, right? And, I saw them chatting away in front of me. She's like, you know what? I want to learn Japanese. Again, I didn't say that. I'm from rural Virginia. I didn't know anything, right? And this is what's crazy. I didn't even know. I started teaching myself, and I didn't know that there were classes that you could take.
Really?
I'm trying to tell you, like the ignorance is real.
Yeah.
This is why I think maybe I'm more sympathetic to positions that people might hold, right? Than maybe I otherwise would be. Because I remember I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, she saw that I was studying Japanese. She was like, wow, you're really into this. Like, yeah, I just love this. She's like, why don't you take a class? And I literally looked at her and said, what do you mean? She's like, well, we're at Florida State. Why don't you take classes in Japanese? It's like, I didn't know. I literally didn't know. Right?
Oh my God.
I was first, as you might be able to tell, first generation college student,
Yeah.
but also very unprepared.
Yeah.
Even being first generation, I was really, really unprepared. And so, yeah, then I took a couple courses there, had an amazing professor, Professor Ri, who himself is a Korean national, but because of the occupation experience and all that, and he's also gifted in languages. He could speak fluently 8 languages.
That's
sort of
incredible.
An extraordinary human being, right? For so many reasons. So, yeah. So that was anyway very similar starting point, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I got started. I went on Duolingo on my computer. I spent just like hours doing that.
Yeah, sure.
The more I learned about the language, the more I just appreciated it.
Yeah.
The more opportunities it opened up for me. I had so many chances to talk to all these people I never had chances to be around. My goal with it now is just to do something with it. I kind of want to live in like Quebec for a year, or go to France, or I don't know. It's just like playing baseball in college has really limited my opportunities to go study abroad, and I really just kind of want to like explore for a little bit. And I don't want to work. Like I don't want to give my life to society yet. I want to just be my own person for a while. I'm sorry, what you said about you finding out they were Korean, that was so funny. That was so funny.
I mean, again, it's the nature of ignorance, right?
Right.
And I've never forgotten it. But let me just do my advisor thing and say, even if you don't do the study abroad thing while you're in college, these sorts of opportunities I think teaching English and that sort of thing, those are jobs that they're jobs. So I can't tell you that you do have to work. But they're jobs that I think are designed to be good transitions from when you graduate college, right?
Yeah.
So don't think that you have no opportunity to do it. I mean, same for you, Brody. Don't think that you don't have opportunity to do these things. It's there.
Yeah.
It's there.
All right, well, let's talk about Florida State. You said you hate it.
Itch. I'm over here scratching.
I know, but you said my last day's there. Thank God. I want to know a little bit.
Yeah, it was a tough time when I was there, and I'd like to think that the place has gotten better now.
Okay.
But I, to be perfectly frank, I probably haven't been back to Tallahassee in 40 years. Right? How old am I? Not 40, 30 years. Mm-hmm. Probably 30 years. So it's one of those things where when I was there, I came from rural Virginia, but where I was from, this place called Madison County, it was a weird sort of enclave. And what I mean is that Virginia, again, is a place that's famous for many things, including basically inventing American racism, right? The one-drop rule, right?
Yeah.
But it was weird because when I was growing up there, even before I was there, it only had one high school in Madison County. Wow. Only one high school. And so that means everyone went there. Yeah. Like they weren't wealthy enough to be segregationist, right? And so everyone had to go to the same school. And it created a completely different atmosphere, right? Even for my dad's generation. My dad went to school there. It created a different atmosphere. And so, kind of all of our friend groups were all mixed, and it was that thing. And then I went to Florida State, and I'll never forget, I was there probably the first week, and went to the mall and was walking around. I was like, man, something doesn't feel right here.
Yeah.
And finally it clicked on me. It was like, oh, there are no people of different racial groups interacting with each other here.
Yeah.
Like you see, there are a couple black people over there and a few white people over here, and never shall they mix, right?
Yeah.
It was really an odd thing. And then, of course, life on campus was interesting. So one of the fraternities there, I won't mention it, but one of the fraternities there used to do this thing called Old South Days. And what they would do is they would hire local unemployed black people to play these servant roles and things.
Wow.
And yeah, it was bad, man. And that's on top of the actual reality where in the city, they had a whole part of the city where you could go any given time of day and you just see lots of like black men and women just sort of milling around. And it was like, well, what's going on here? It's because there was a clear divide in their economic opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a really extraordinary thing to see, right? Because I had never experienced it. Between that and the other sorts of incidents that happened on campus, I was able, fortunately, to make some good friends, but that experience of being there was really tough. And add on top of all of that, the tuition for out-of-state students got raised by about 30% like 2 years in a row when I was there. And I was like, oh, my God, I can't afford that. I was trying to pay out of pocket then, right? Yeah. It's like, I can't afford this anymore. Yeah. And so when you put it all together, I had a professor who was part of a group I started there. He was the advisor. I helped start a group called Progressive Black Men. Great group of folks. Did not include only black men as well, right? Sort of foreshadowing my Beloit College days, right, and how people are at Beloit. But in fact, our faculty advisor was white. Great man, David Ammerman. And he came up to me one day and just sort of grabbed me by the shoulder when I was walking across campus. He's like, I think you should probably go to a different school.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Because again, remember, first gen, I didn't know you could transfer. I didn't really know you could do that, right? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to be at William and Mary. And I was like, oh, that's near where I'm from. And he was like, yeah, why don't you apply there? And if you need a place to crash until, you can get sorted, please do. And I applied. I eventually got in, and I did. And I stayed with him for about 2 months. But that's a whole other story because he was running a kind of halfway house for recovering alcoholics and crack addicts.
Wow.
And that was one of the most eye-opening experiences I have ever had in my life.
Wow.
I don't want to say everyone should have the experience because they chain smoked. Everyone in the house chain smoked. So it was like when you walk in, you could almost literally cut like a chunk of smoke out, right? It was that thick. But I had, again, the great fortune of meeting a man. I sat down with him. I'm going to say his name, Howard Handsome. because you won't believe it. It doesn't sound like a real name,
No,
right?
it doesn't.
But it was his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Handsome. That was their last name, right? I mean, it was a thing. But he sat me down and he helped me to understand why you should never, ever use crack cocaine. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he said to me, I've never forgotten. He said, you know, I've been sober now for 2 years, and there is not a single day I don't think about using crack again. Wow. And that got me. I was done at that point. Like, there are a lot of things I like, a lot of things that you're like, yeah, I could do this all the time. Yeah, right? No. Every day that would break me. Yeah. And so, it's never been a problem for me to stay away from those kinds of drugs.
Have you ever seen the show Snowfall?
I haven't, but someone told me I should watch it. Yeah.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite shows. It is very informative. I mean, you know how Hollywood is, right?
Yeah,
like, they overdo things a little bit, but it got me to do research on what was going on, like the crack cocaine epidemic, especially in like South Central neighborhoods in LA. And FBI involvement, CIA involvement, really, I really hope they don't try and find me, but really interesting. It puts a lot of things into perspective. There was it's not ever like proven, but the reality of the situation is, it seems like the CIA was trying to put minorities on their backs.
Yeah, and it's you can have terrible outcomes and terrible behaviors even for reasons that may, at least to someone, ostensibly seem reasonable, right? And in this country, it has consistently been the case that that certain populations, but particularly African Americans, will often find themselves on the receiving end of these kinds of behaviors.
Yeah.
And, I remember even back then there was some concern that the government was involved in sponsoring or creating the crack epidemic. And, it's just one of those things where even if it was not done for overtly racist reasons, right, part of it clearly had to do with supporting other sorts of clandestine operations, right? There's a whole conversation around it with Oliver North and the sort of Iran-Contra stuff.
The Contras, right?
Selling drugs in the United States to fund secret wars in Central America. No matter how you look at it, it's a terrible thing.
Yeah,
it's a truly terrible thing.
And one thing about addiction, just that I've realized over the years, is that once you're an addict, like, you're an addict for life.
Often the case. Right?
I really think so. I think that, like, I've never had, I don't think I've known anybody on crack cocaine, but in terms of alcohol and stuff like that, it's like, oh, but maybe I'm sober, but you're really just off it. Like, if you bring that thing back into your life, and it's there. Yeah. And there's really no doing it in
like moderation.
Moderation. That's the word I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. Moderation.
Yeah.
One thing I was talking about this with my girlfriend, and I feel like uneasy to bring this up, but I think you'll like it.
Okay. That's a heck of a setup.
No, I know. It's just it's stuff that's hard to talk about, but I think this is what the show is for, informing people.
Sure. Yeah.
Martin Luther King, like, it was not that long ago. People forget that.
Yes, that's
right. I mean, that was in the 50s. That means people, like, are
60s. So even
60s,
even closer in time.
Like, people our grandparents' age, like, even like older generation parents were alive for that.
Oh, for sure.
And went through that in their schools.
Yes, that's right.
And I think it's crazy to me how people don't realize that, and people talk about these uneasy topics like racism, and they're saying, oh, does it exist? Well, yeah, it exists.
I mean, of course it exists, right?
I mean, how does it not? I mean, fundamentally, yes, it exists. Like, people that are alive and speaking and I talk about the same thing with the Holocaust, that stuff didn't happen that long ago.
It's not that long ago. That's really not that long ago.
It's so crazy for me to think how we progress as a society. Like, we have to know that, we have to proceed with that.
Yeah.
And these are uneasy topics that I don't know how we talk about them, but what do you think is the best way for us to go about that?
I mean, everything is about, I think, creating the space for those conversations. And you won't often, some of my friends disagree with me and my colleagues disagree with me. I don't like the idea of saying safe space. Right? Okay. I like instead to just say that we're creating a space to have these discussions because they are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There is a great deal of discomfort that will come from having these conversations. But, part of what I think you do is you create the space to do it. Yeah. Because there is value in having us understand things like if we understand that racism is just as one of the major isms. And I think one of the ones that has structured our society in really fundamental ways. If we understand the role that that's played in our culture, then declaring it gone in like 50, 60 years is tantamount to saying that, oh, well, we should all be speaking a different language today. Yeah. Right? It's a part of your culture, right? And if it's a part of your culture that you need to exorcise, that you need to take out, that's going to require actual effort. Yeah. And realistically, we just haven't done that. It's no shade on anyone, right? Yeah. Just as a society, we've done kind of the bare minimum. I mean, the other one is our insistence on sex division, right? There in some ways, just like any other thing, maybe it made sense for people at a certain point in time. But a lot of the sex divides that we do, sex-based divides, are based just on the tradition of doing them. Yeah. Right? But these are perhaps parts of culture we don't like, but they are parts of culture. And it will take time to truly get them out of our culture if we don't want it. But more importantly, it takes effort. Yeah. Right? Failing that, the only way that I know that you can really change culture is through some sort of massive critical juncture, right? Some event that completely disrupts things, right? So that no one knows about the past anymore, right? Yeah. And going from there, but that's not terribly realistic and probably is pretty horrifying, right? And if there were an event that got us that way. Yeah. So yeah,
I think it's really crazy thinking about. I kind of live my life through trial and error. I mean, I think it's taken me 21 years to get to a point where I can act and live my life the way that I see fit. Mm-hmm. A big theme for me is like actions over words. Mm-hmm. In terms of crisis, it's proven that, say something tragic happens to you, I would rather do something for a person than just say thinking of you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We see it in baseball. We see it everywhere where someone might think they're better than someone, or someone might think this or that, and it's like the actions will speak for themselves.
That's the facts.
Like I want to live my life to where I can not say anything and I can be who I think I am. Now, granted, with this podcast, I don't think that's possible because it's all about talking. But
sure,
yeah, no, that's it. Actions are better. Actions are a lot more impactful than words.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately that's true, right? But words also have power, right? Yeah. And we all know that, right? Because we learn things that then help transform how we act going forward, right? So I think the idea for me is, yes, actions often speak louder than words. That's the adage, right? But I think for me, it's what can I do to make my actions and my words align, right? Again, that's part of my whole word is bond thing, right? Yeah. If I said a thing, then this is the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I've arrived, and I'm still working on it, right? Yeah. I grew up like a lot of people, especially from the South, as a people pleaser, right?
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing personal development effort to try and move from that space.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your nonprofit organization, Formerly Incarcerated People.
So that was something that I wanted to start up before I came to Beloit. So as I've sort of hinted at, I had a whole career as a financial writer and translator, but had a very strong and have always had a very strong interest in a particular form of environmentalism, which is around the reduction and elimination of waste. And the flip side to that is using things that are also currently unused. And so for me, that means making sure that like solar, wind, so-called alternative forms of energy, right? Alternatives to fossil fuels, but also utilizing human capital, human resources to do things, to move forward, like ideas of a green economy. And so had I not come to Beloit and fallen in love with this place, my entire goal was to stay in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and work with a friend of mine to set up a not-for-profit that was going to be dedicated to helping people who had been formerly incarcerated, helping them to get into the green economy and figuring out how to do construction work around solar collectors and around vehicle conversions and that kind of stuff, right? That was what I was going to do. But as fate would have it, I came here, met the faculty and staff who were here at the time, and then, of course, met the students, and just had an experience that made it difficult for me to say no when folks said, "Hey, we'd like to bring you to campus." And I was like, "Hey, all right, I think I'll give it a go." Literally, I remember telling myself, "I'll give it a go for a year or two," and now here we are at year 13.
Yeah.
So how exactly did you get to Beloit?
Yeah, I mean, it was really that. I was doing my graduate work at the University of New Mexico, and my field, of course, is political science, but even within that, the subfield was health policy.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, right around that time, Beloit was looking for someone who could, I mean, it was almost a sort of unicorn thing, right, where they were looking for someone who was a political scientist, but also could help develop out their health and society program, right? So it was going to be a dual appointment. And, I mean, that was almost literally what I did.
Yeah.
Probably, to be fair, probably no more than 5 to 7 people in the entire country at that moment would have been available to do it, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was an interview process, and, I think, I made it down to the wire, and I think one person said no, and it was like, all right, well, let's go with this guy. And I hope it's been a good choice for Beloit. It's certainly been a good choice for me. I couldn't imagine my life differently at this point, right?
Well, let's get into a little bit just on how you became an academic. What made you so interested in environmentalism?
Yeah. I mean, I think what it was if I think back on it, it was my time in Japan where I saw a great transformation happen there. And so that's on the environmental side, where when I first arrived, trash was divided into burnable and unburnable. Mm-hmm. That was it, right? And then within a few short years, when people started really pushing back against like dioxins in the air and that kind of stuff, within a few short years, all of a sudden it changed. And it made me realize that kind of change, social change, can happen, and that if a society really wants to take care of the environment and care for itself, it can. I mean, for me, my interest in the environment initially was very self-focused. I don't want to have kids into a world where they can't breathe.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of into the idea of breathing and, the stuff myself, right?
I am too, yeah.
And so there was that. But then as I started getting more and more into it, I realized, like, man, there's so many things that we just waste, right? And so that was going on in the background. At the same time, I think you all know I got my master's degree in peace studies and conflict resolution at University of Notre Dame. And when I was there, I was meeting people from a variety of different countries, and we were sort of modeling how you get along, right? We didn't do it intentionally, but we had conflicts, but we'd sit down and try and sort it out because we were all in the same program. And then from there, I went back to Japan, and I just could not shake the belief internally that politics and political action is something that we really need to focus on, right? And so I decided, well, what are the factors that are keeping us from finding peace, right? What are the factors that are keeping us from making good policy choices? And right around that time, there was also happening this weird relationship between North Korea, Japan, and China, where North Korea and China, of course, were close allies, closer, I think, then than they are today. And then it's sort of the news broke that North Korea had actually been kidnapping Japanese citizens to take them to North Korea. You got to understand, this was like an apocryphal thing for decades, very much like the Tuskegee syphilis trials in the U.S., where people kind of knew it, but everyone was like, nah, that's too ridiculous to be true, right? And it turns out it was true. And so that also was, that security puzzle was fascinating to me. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm going to apply to school in political science. And I did, and I thought I'd do international relations initially.
Wow.
And then when I got into my program, I took a course in American politics. Of course, I took one in international relations as well, because when you're a poli-sci major, you have to take courses from all of these areas. And I just realized the American politics one is what got me, because I'm like, man, you know, people still don't understand how minorities think and why we think the way that we do about political behavior, right? And yeah, it was just sort of there, and then I was sort of languishing because it was a lot of focus on voting. And then right around that time, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation opened up on campus, and they wanted to focus in on the health of indigenous women and Latinas, and they were willing to expand that to include African American women. And I just fell right into that because I was developing, even at that moment, an interest in infant mortality and why. Like, everyone loves babies, right? But why on earth would there be a racial gap in that, right? And right around that time, I was developing that interest, and they all just sort of came together. But I was actually very ambivalent about being an academic. I taught English for a while, for too long. I think it's a thing you do for 2 years. You shouldn't do it for 5. And I kind of was out of the idea of teaching. And my advisor on campus, Deborah McFarland, was like, Ron, it's not the same thing. And so she invited me to teach some courses, some classes for her at University of New Mexico. And it was good. Yeah. And I said, okay, this is different. This is kind of maybe what I was looking for. Yeah. And then when I came here, you know, again, still ambivalent. When I came here and I did my presentation, man, the Beloit College students, they came for me in the best way. They were just like, well, wait, does this statistic mean this and that? And you know, but what about this? What if it's this? And I, you know, instead of being like shell-shocked by it, I was just like, this is awesome. Yes, let's talk about it. Right? And I was so excited about that. I thought, you know what, then I'm going to give it a go. Yeah. And next thing I know, I was like, you know what, I think I do like this. So I think
what's interesting about just our school and campus in general is that there's a lot of times where people like don't want to talk about things. Like you'd be in class, like even our econ seminar class, we talk about that a lot. It's just people don't want to ask questions. I think people are scared to. People don't want to get canceled or whatever that means. That's right. And I think what's interesting about here is that I think we're getting to a point where you can voice your opinions.
I hope so.
I think we're getting there.
I hope so.
And there's a little bit of polarization going on right now that I'm not a big fan of, but I do think we're inching towards it. Now, granted, like what's going on campus right now is a completely different thing. I don't. Once again, with great power comes great responsibility. I think the responsibility might have been lacking a little bit. Might have been a little bit of ignorance. I mean, you don't know what you don't know until you have to know it.
That's right. That's right. And that's part of what we have to continue to understand about all of us, right? Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of things I will happily, well, not happily, but I will confess, there are any number of things that took me years to really come to grips with, right? I will, tell people a story about, having my wife confront me about my behavior that was misogynistic, right? That hurt, right? But it was really an important moment of growth for me. But then I think back, I was telling some at Academic Senate, I was telling folks, I remember I joined the International Socialist Organization when I was like 19 or 20. And, if someone had come up to me and said, Ron, you don't want to be a part of this organization. It's not what you think. Oh my God, I would have been like, you don't know me, get out of my face, right? But I had to have my own experience with it to finally be like, yeah, you guys aren't, I thought you were about something different than what I'm actually about, right? And so, I think that's part of what we have to continue to understand about one another, right? And I hope you're right about people feeling like they can better voice their opinions. I think it's important to do so. But we did a survey here on campus, and Professor Zipfon was really behind helping to move this forward. Well, what we really found is that students are more afraid of each other. They're not really afraid of professors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're afraid of each other, and this brings us kind of full circle to social media, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that everything that we can do to re-energize face-to-face interactions, I think everything we can do, we should do.
Yeah.
And this idea that you have to document every moment of your life, everything that's said, that's bad, because
Really
it also
bad.
doesn't go anywhere. I mean, it doesn't go away, right? Man, the stuff that we did when no one was watching, I mean, probably most of us would have been at least arrested, if not convicted, of a variety of different things. And that's me, and I was a goody two-shoes. And even I did some stuff that was like sus back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where you have to give, the online world takes away your ability to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And that's not reasonable when we're creatures that learn from mistakes.
Yeah. Have any of you guys seen Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a great show.
The part of the show that just sticks out to me so much is when he says, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yes.
And that's been stuck in my head ever since I've seen that show.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to think about it, because it's like we judge everybody at face value for what you see. You're not judging anything else. It's like you have to be curious. And this is me saying, this is just how I live my life. And there's no telling if what I do that I think is right is actually right. But I think it's important. We have to be curious. Yeah. We have to ask questions. Ask the question, why? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you like this? Like,
that's right.
If everybody in society would just ask, if they didn't, it's about asking why when you don't agree with something.
Right.
It's like, okay, Turning Point USA is on campus. Why? What's your motive? What are you trying to do? Get to know it. Like, maybe you don't agree with it, but let's have a conversation. Let's let's talk. But yeah, okay. I was gonna bring up a story for you.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Dr. Tacey?
One of my colleagues?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. So I was in one of her classes. I love her. I'm
she's great.
Big fan of her. I wore a Chiefs sweatshirt to class one time. I'm from Kansas City. And she was like staring at me during class. And this is connected to Florida State because she did her master's there, or maybe her PhD.
I'm not sure.
And she was telling me about their chop thing, or tomahawk chop.
That was surprising for me back in 1989.
Yeah.
So just FYI.
It just brought up this really interesting dialogue that I never would have thought would have happened.
That's right.
I didn't think anything about wearing the Chiefs sweatshirt to class, and she's like, as long as you're not mocking us. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right.
yeah. I mean, and again, this is in some ways the fraught history of a country that you didn't have anything to do with that history then, right? But you have everything to do with it now, right? I mean, this is the burden of those of us who live through the present, right? And the way that you handle it with some humility is to be open to someone having a different perspective on a thing than you, right? And that goes for any perspective, right? When my wife at the time called me out, I had a choice. I could shout her down and prove the point, right? Or I could take a deep breath, deal with my ego feeling bruised by the fact that someone called me out on a thing, and say, you know what? You're right. Let me think what I can do to do better on that one.
Yeah.
Right? Because none of us come into this world fully formed with full knowledge.
No.
If we did, why on earth would you ever spend your money going to college?
No, yeah.
Why would you do that? Right?
No.
That doesn't make any sense. You already know everything.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, that's a way to leave it. Is stay curious.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah.
This is the key.
That's very true. All right, well, it's 1:30. We don't want to keep you too long.
Right on.
This has been my favorite show.
Oh, stop it.
This was really fantastic.
This was,
Fun time.
I feel like at the end of every show, I say this has been my favorite, but I think this one takes it.
Yeah, I learned a ton in this hour.
This has been really awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for joining us.
Not at all.
This has been great.
Thank you all for continuing to do this, right? I mean, this is a good way for us to have conversations, right?
Right.
Still in that space. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, thank you to our listeners, and we'll see you guys next time.